Guys, which one is the worst date you ever had? The guy who brought his mom. I matched with this guy on a dating app who seemed super normal. Cute, a little nerdy, but in a charming way. We agreed to meet for brunch at a nice cafe downtown. When I arrived, he was already there with his mom. I thought maybe she was just dropping him off or something. Nope. She sat down, opened the menu, and said, "I hope you like waffles, sweetheart." I was stunned. I asked if she was joining us, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, I bring her on all my first dates. She could tell if a girl's good for me." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. During the entire brunch, his mom asked me invasive questions like if I wanted kids, how much I made a year if I was pure, and even asked if my hair was real. At one point, she called over the waitress and asked if she thought I was wife material. I was about to leave, but the guy begged me to stay for dessert because Mom thinks we have potential. Needless to say, I never texted back. But the worst part? The mom friended me on Facebook and sent me a message that said, "I hope you'll reconsider. My son really needs a stable woman." The collector. So, I met this guy through mutual friends. He seemed sweet, well-spoken, a little awkward, but I like quirky people, so I agreed to go out with him. We decided on dinner at this small Italian place. Things started weird immediately. When I got in his car, he had classical music blasting and he was narrating his own driving like, "And now, we make a smooth left turn, very elegant." Excellent timing. I laughed at first, but it didn't stop. He did it all the way to the restaurant like he was hosting his own reality show. At dinner, he barely let me talk. He asked me questions, then answered them for me. "Guy, so what do you do for fun?" Probably yoga. You look like you do yoga." "Me? Actually, Guy, yeah, you totally do yoga." Then, halfway through the meal, he looked me straight in the eye and said, "I have something to show you, but you have to promise not to freak out." Red flags? Waving. He pulled out a laminated binder from his bag. Inside were photos of dolls. Hundreds of them, all posed in weird scenes. One was cooking, one was riding a tiny plastic horse, another one was tied up like a hostage. "I make them myself," he whispered. "Their names are in the back. Want to know yours?" He had already made one of me. Blonde hair. I'm brunette. Green dress. Never worn one. Named Mila. Not even close to my name. He said he felt my energy through my social media and started designing my doll the day after he saw my tag photo at a wedding. I left. I blocked him. Then I checked my Instagram. He had liked every single one of my posts from the past 4 years. The funeral date. So, this guy I matched with on a dating app seemed really put together. Suit in every photo, smiling with dogs, talking about how he works in event planning. He asked if I was free Friday and said he had a unique kind of date idea if I was open-minded. I was intrigued. He picked me up in a black car, dressed in all black, and handed me a bouquet of lilies. I asked if we were going somewhere fancy. He smiled and said something like that. Fast forward 20 minutes, and we pull into a cemetery. At first, I thought, oh, maybe he's artsy or into gothic stuff. Maybe it's some kind of moonlight poetry thing. But no, he parks, takes my hand, and walks me toward a gathering of people, all dressed in black, crying. Before I can say anything, he leans in and whispers, "Just follow my lead. Say you're my coworker. It's my uncle's funeral." I didn't want to go alone. I literally froze. I'm standing next to him in a full-on funeral procession, hugging strangers and pretending to be sad about a man I never met. He's even crying. Real tears. The guy grabs my hand during the eulogy and squeezes it dramatically. I'm just standing there, stunned, surrounded by grieving family, and now I'm part of their sorrow. Afterward, at the reception, he introduced me to his aunt as the woman he's been telling her about. I had known him for 48 hours. Later, when we finally got in the car, I asked him what the hell that was all about. He said, "First dates are awkward. Funerals are the best place to bond emotionally." I asked to be taken home immediately. He said, "But we haven't even looked at the urn yet." Blocked. Forever. The mannequin collector. I met this guy on Bumble who seemed quirky but sweet. He was into vintage photography, had a mustache that screamed hipster barista, and used words like sublime in everyday conversation. We agreed to meet for coffee, but at the last minute he asked if I could come to his place instead. He claimed he was revamping his darkroom, and couldn't leave. I figured, why not? It was the middle of the day, and I was curious. His apartment was clean, but off. Like showroom off. Every piece of furniture looked untouched. But what really made my skin crawl were the mannequins. At least a dozen of them, all dressed in different outfits, positioned around the room. He said they were creative inspiration for his photography. I tried to laugh it off until I noticed one mannequin in the kitchen had fresh lipstick smudges. He offered me wine, which I didn't drink, said he had something to show me, and led me into his darkroom. That's when I saw dozens of photos of the mannequins, some with him kissing them, others where he had dressed as different characters and posed them like romantic partners. One photo showed a mannequin in the exact outfit I was wearing. I made up an excuse about a family emergency and left so fast I forgot my scarf. He messaged me that night saying, "She misses you already." I blocked him immediately. The worst part? 2 weeks later, he started following me from a different profile, with a profile picture of a mannequin wearing my scarf. The taxidermy surprise. I met this guy on Hinge. He seemed super normal. Smart, funny, even kind of shy in a charming way. We talked about books, food, travel, all the usual things. He invited me over for dinner at his place for our third date, and honestly, I was excited. He said he loved to cook and wanted to impress me with his signature risotto. I mean, who says no to that? I show up, and the place smells amazing, garlic, wine, herbs. But then I step inside, and it hits me. The walls are covered in dead animals. I don't mean a deer head or two. I mean an entire zoo of taxidermy. Foxes, owls, raccoons, even a freaking peacock. It was like dining inside a haunted hunting lodge. He casually explains that taxidermy is his passion. Apparently, he personally preserved most of the animals. He then proceeds to introduce me to them. Like, actually introduces them by name. "That's Geraldine. She used to live in my backyard." I laughed awkwardly, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. As we ate, he asked if I wanted to hold a squirrel. I said no, and he seemed genuinely disappointed. Then he asked me if I had any pets. I told him I had a cat, and he got this look in his eye and said, "If anything ever happens to her, I could make sure she's with you forever." I choked on my wine, made up an excuse about having to feed said cat, and got the hell out. He still messages me sometimes, asking if I've changed my mind about Geraldine, the mom's chaperone. So I met this guy on Tinder, and he seemed really sweet. Cute, polite, a little awkward, but in that harmless nerd kind of way. He asked me out for dinner, said he knew this amazing Italian place, and I said sure. I got dressed up, showed up at the restaurant, and he was already sitting there, with his mom. At first I thought maybe it was just bad timing. Like she dropped him off and stuck around to say hi or something. Nope, she had a menu. She ordered wine. She sat through the entire date. It got worse. She kept interrupting every conversation. We had to either brag about her son or explain what he really meant if he phrased something poorly. At one point, she told me, "He's just very shy around girls because he's only kissed 3, but you'd be a great 4th. Like, what? When the food arrived, she started cutting his lasagna for him. He didn't even flinch. Just let it happen. Like this was normal. Then, right as dessert was coming, she asked me if I had any plans to have children within the next 3 years because, and I quote, "Jason's going to make a great father once he moves out." Spoiler, Jason was 28. I excused myself to the bathroom and never came back. I Venmo'd him for my meal because I felt bad, but I also blocked him everywhere. I don't think I could handle a second date with both of them. The rehearsed proposal. I met this guy on Bumble who seemed incredibly romantic. He messaged me poems, called me Milady, and talked about how he believed in soulmates and love at first text. A little intense, but I figured, hey, maybe he's just passionate. He asked me out to a surprise location and told me to wear something elegant but comfy. I showed up at a botanical garden, which was kind of nice, except he had a friend with him, holding a camera. Before I could even ask what was going on, he launched into a full monologue. I mean, a memorized speech about how he had waited his whole life to meet someone like me and how the stars aligned to bring us together. He got down on one knee and proposed with a plastic ring on our first date. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. His friends started clapping. He asked me to say yes, just for the photo, and told me we could figure the rest out later. When I hesitated, he whispered that he had spent money renting the spot and hiring the photographer. Then he literally started crying, saying I ruined the magic. I apologized, walked away stunned, and he spent the next few days sending me long voice notes about how I was a coward afraid of true love. I reported him on Bumble. They removed his account. So, someone else dodged that bullet too, I guess. The date with my ex's dad. So, I matched with this older guy on a dating app. Late 40s, well-dressed, seemed intelligent. He said he loved literature and deep conversations. And honestly, I was in the mood for something more mature after a string of childish guys. We went to this upscale restaurant, and things were actually going well. He was charming, funny, even asked me about my favorite books without making it weird. Then, halfway through the main course, he mentioned he had kids, grown kids. I casually asked how old they were, and he said, "Oh, my son is around your age, actually. I think you guys even went to the same high school." Cue red flags. He asked what school I went to. I told him. He went pale. Then he said my full name. I froze. "Wait, are you my name? Who dated Ryan?" he asked. "Ryan, my high school boyfriend. The one I dated for 2 years and broke up with right before graduation. Who ghosted me for a girl named Claire and never gave me closure." Turns out this guy was Ryan's dad. I nearly choked on my wine. Apparently, he'd recognized me from photos in the past, but didn't connect the dots until now. And the worst part, he didn't stop the date. He leaned in and said, "Well, I always thought you were too good for my son." I made an excuse and left. As I was walking to my car, I got a text. "Still interested in a nightcap?" Yeah, that man wanted to be my ex's stepdad in reverse. I blocked him and deleted the app for a while. You can't make this stuff up. He took me to his mom's funeral on our first date. I met this guy on Bumble. He seemed sweet, kind of shy, but with this quirky sense of humor that I found endearing. We chatted for a week before he asked me out. He said, "I know this might sound odd, but would you mind if our first date is something a little different?" I asked what he meant, and he said he had to attend a family event, but he didn't want to go alone. I was curious, and he seemed genuinely nervous, so I said okay, expecting maybe a family barbecue or something mildly awkward. He picked me up in a black button-up shirt and slacks. I was wearing a floral dress, trying to look casual but cute. 10 minutes into the drive, I realized he was way too quiet. I asked if he was okay, and he just said, "Yeah, just thinking a lot about my mom." I asked, "Is she okay?" And he replied, "Well, not really. She passed away last week." I gasped and started to offer condolences, but then it hit me. "Wait, where are we going?" We pulled up to a funeral home. I stared at him. "Is this your mom's funeral?" He nodded. I didn't want to go alone. "I hope that's okay." I was in shock. I looked down at my sundress, completely inappropriate for the occasion, and then at all the mourners gathering in black. Before I could even say anything, he got out and walked to the door. I panicked and followed because I didn't want to be the jerk who bailed at a funeral. He introduced me to his cousins as his girlfriend. I met his sobbing aunt. I met his dad, who asked me how long we'd been together. I said about a week. People were hugging me and telling me how glad they were he finally found someone. I just nodded like I was in a dream or a very weird episode of Black Mirror. The absolute kicker? During the eulogy, he grabbed my hand and whispered, "This feels right." Needless to say, we did not have a second date, and I left that funeral completely emotionally destroyed and still single. He made me pray to his dead cat. I matched with this guy on Hinge who was really into spirituality. Like, really into it. His profile mentioned crystals, astrology, meditation, nothing too wild, just earthy. I figured he was probably a little eccentric, but hey, I'm open-minded. We went out for coffee and hit it off decently. He was a little intense, but he seemed kind. Toward the end of the date, he asked if I wanted to come over to see his altar. I thought maybe it was a joke. It wasn't. I said yes, thinking maybe it was just candles or some cool aesthetic setup. We got his place. The living room looked normal until I noticed there were framed photos of a cat everywhere. Like, over the fireplace, on the coffee table, even in the kitchen. He pointed to one photo of a gray tabby with a jeweled collar and whispered, "That's Princess. She was the love of my life." I said, "She's adorable. trying to stay polite. Then he said, "Would you join me in honoring her?" I laughed, thinking he was kidding. He wasn't. He lit incense, turned off the lights, and asked me to kneel next to him in front of a giant portrait of the cat. He held out a tiny pillow for me to kneel on, already prepared. He then began chanting for several minutes. I was frozen. I didn't know if I should leave, laugh, or join in. Then he passed me a small bowl of milk and said, "It's symbolic. Just place it at her feet." At this point, I was pretty sure I'd entered a cult or was being filmed for a prank show. I set down the milk like I was sacrificing my dignity, stood up, and said I had to go. He seemed confused and said, "But Princess likes you. I can feel her energy warming to you." Nope. I was out the door in less than 30 seconds. He texted me later that night, asking if I wanted to come over again to see if Princess would visit us in spirit. Yeah, I blocked him immediately. Hey guys, let me know your own experiences in the comments.